All right, here with Celtics President of Basketball Operations, Brad Stevens. I want to get into the trades and everything, but I want to just start. February 9th, 60% of the season in the rear view. How are you feeling about your team overall?
I mean, I think we've played good basketball. I think we have some things we need to do better, and I think we have to just continuously improve. I've been encouraged by our work when we get back in the gym. You know, I think that we've had some things that have been glaring that we need to work on, but also some things that are like, okay, we need to be playing each of these games, but also preparing for down the road, and I think we've balanced that well.
What's glaring?
I'll get into some of that, but I think the biggest thing for me is that just play with presence, play with an impact. You know, there have been moments where I think that we have shown ourselves to be attackable when we're not, we're not at our very best on that end. And then on the other end, I think that when the offensive end of the floor, just being in attack mindset with regard to getting into the paint. The more that we can do those things, the better. I think we're, in a good place. Don't get me wrong. I'm just, hypersensitive to making sure that we're focused on improving.
Yeah, no, and I totally get it, right? When you feel like you have a chance, you have to be clicking at every level. From afar, it feels like a good chemistry mix. How much of that goes into when you're deciding what to do at the trade deadline? How much you don't want to disrupt that?
I mean, it's my whole background. When I was at Butler, we were recruiting in the Horizon League. It was about, getting, a few guys that could play anywhere in the country and everybody else playing a role to the nth degree, but everybody buying into it and embracing that. And listen, this is a way different level and a way higher level, and there's a lot else going on when you talk about the contracts and, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It is, how can everybody buy into their role for that team? Doesn't mean you love your role forever or you dream of being that 10 years from now, but you need to do it for us right now because of the people that are in the room and what we all need to do together. And this group is as good as I've ever been around, and that includes college. Unbelievable character, great leadership, and I think we're lucky that we've got a bunch of young guys that have experienced a lot that are all high character players, and then we've got a couple guys in their 30s that are about, without question, as good as it gets.
All right, tell me about the new guys. When does Xavier first pop onto your radar? Are you scouting him in college? Are you just kind of monitoring his development? Are you surprised when there is an opportunity to go get him?
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, as all of these teams now look into the future and try to figure out how to best manage their stuff moving forward, people are going to have to make decisions on young players entering the end of their rookie deals. And he's a guy that we've liked for a long time. I wasn't in this position when he came out of college, but I remember watching him with Michigan State, and I know what the responsibility of playing at Michigan State is like. So this is not unique to put on a Celtics uniform, especially with he's played on great teams in Memphis the last few years that went from like the fun teams, that fun story, to like expectations. That's a big difference. And then having played in college where you go in and you've got to, you're trying to get back to the 8th Final Four in 20 years or whatever the case may be. Like he gets that, and so he's always been a guy that we've thought, with his ability to move laterally, with his size, with his physicality, with his thinking and passing, made sense on our team around our best players. We didn't necessarily feel like we needed to add scoring to this group. We feel like we've got a lot of scoring and a lot of shooting. What we need is some, just some guys that can help us navigate some matchups.
Shades of Al, is that fair in terms of switchability, a little undersized?
I think defensively, that would be a pretty similar type of guy, right? So he can guard bigger guys, but he can also switch late in the clock. He's not like way above the rim by any means, but he's way longer than people realize. So he gets his hands on passes, on shots. Like he's got a good impact in that way. Al's a high bar now.
Yeah, that almost feel unfair.
And so I want to.
Yeah, comparisons are tough, but I feel like that's a good ecosystem to throw him into.
Yeah, and if he shoots 40-some-odd% from three for the rest of this year, that would be amazing.
And make you look really smart.
Yeah, maybe he can. Whatever Al's doing, he should do.
I think that's for everybody in this world. Jaden, even in the games leading up to the trade deadline, like he defended Luka, defended Steph. Like, are you watching that? Same deal. Like, I couldn't believe he was sort of the guy that was available. Philly fans are a little worked up that you were able to swoop in.
Well, we had, like I said, we had followed Jaden for a while. Jaden went from, a guy that I was interested in to a guy I was really interested in after our preseason game here when I saw him really defend, like really, really defend. So watched him a little bit closer. The game against us there was an interesting game. I don't remember that quite as well maybe, but we have been paying attention as we've gone into this trade deadline as he's been playing more, the matchups he's had. And so I don't, my expectation is for Jaden to come in and keep improving. He's got to improve his offensive game. He's got to improve his shooting. But he has ability defensively that is really unique. And as I said in my media scrum, and he's younger than most of the guys that we're looking at in the draft. So I think that ultimately there's a lot there.
You have that open roster spot still. Everyone's going to obsess about buyout market and all that. Like, what would you like to do there? Is there a position that you still feel like maybe needs, or do you need to see this and kind of determine from there?
Well, I don't know if making that final decision and saying, okay, these are our 15 guys right now with 2 months left in the season makes a lot of sense. I think we need to utilize this time to evaluate. Knock on wood, nothing happens where we, or deal with any injuries or anything like that. But we just have to be. I think we have to be a little bit patient. But we feel pretty deep at every position. Even with some of our guys that start, when they play with the second unit, they can play several different positions, and so we've got some flexibility there, and we'll see how this all plays out.
I know all-star isn't the end-all be-all for you guys, especially when you have big goals. But any disappointment that Kristaps, Derek don't get to go there? Do you go talk to them and be like, man, I hope you understand how much we appreciate?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to them both, but I think these guys are really mature. Like, it means something. I'm sure to Derek, like, he's never been an all-star, and he's kind of in that conversation. I just told him, you're an all-star to us, so who else cares, right? Like, everything you do makes a difference here, and he's been unbelievable. He's had a great year. Like, whether people vote you in or not, it is what it is. There's a lot of good players in the league. It's hard to say that one should be ahead of the other, but, obviously we're biased. And, I thought especially when we had injury replacements that we would get at least one of those two guys in there.
Tell me about Jeff Van Gundy. I haven't got a chance to talk to you about, like, what's it been like having him around? And, like, what has he brought to it? Did you worry at all when there was a shakeup on the ESPN bench that they might come calling back for him?
I didn't worry about him leaving because he's loving being here. He's liking being part of a team, and we all love having him around. I think that he's been a good friend for a long time, and he's got great insights. He thinks like a coach, and he's been, in different arenas, calling different games for different players and meeting with different coaches for 15 years since he last coached, or for 12 years since he last coached. So this guy has a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge, and yet acts like he's an entry-level intern. Like, he's unbelievable. He's kind to everybody. He's the most humble guy you've ever met. I think he just likes being a part of a team again. Yeah, no, I don't know. Well, I don't think it'll be knock on wood again. It's going to be a little bit later in the evening, so we'll have to figure out that as we get closer. But we've been out. Our scouting group's done a really good job.
You're always ready, and that's why you're ready for these trades, because you've braced yourself for everything.
And part of why you go out and scout and see the guys that are likely to be 10 through 20 is so that on trade deadline day 3 years later, maybe you've got a guy that you can get at the last minute. And I think that's our staff does a really good job of that. Austin, kind of leading the scouting group, and then, Mike and Dave and those guys, and all the way down the line, Remy Cofield, and they all do a great job.
A lot of the focus, everyone says your top six is you know what you've got in your top six. Peyton and Sam have been great. Peyton's been one of the net rating leaders. Sam has been way more consistent, I'd say, over the course of weathering, like shooting up and down. How confident are you in those guys going towards the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm really confident. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to play through and around our best players, as everyone else does, right? And so what we've done is I think we've added some action and added some options at that level, with the way Kristaps can, exploit matchups, with the way Derek and Drew can play off of pick and roll or exploit matchups. Like, we just have a lot of people. So you don't need guys to come in and carry a high level of usage. You need guys that understand how they fit, that play their ass off, and that, can make shots and are comfortable being off of the ball making shots. And I think that, I'm very confident that those guys can do that.